Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It was funny how we crossed paths. We were at an event for Fight for the Cure, but we had a lot of mutual friends that overlapped, including Angela and
Yeah.
one of your other employees there. And I'm curious, how did you get into the supplement space? Like, what's your background?
Okay. So I always say this is something that I just kind of like fell backwards into. So I guess more traditional training was in academic research. So I actually did my master's degree at the University of Ottawa. So I have a master's in cellular molecular medicine. And during grad school, I was on track to kind of do the whole PhD thing. And I got, to be fully honest, I did get a little bit disillusioned with academic research and how all of that runs. That's a story for another time. So I'd finished my master's and I was actually hired on as a senior research tech in the lab that I completed my master's in. And it was my dad, who is the serial entrepreneur in the family, that rolled up to the lab one day, picked me up for lunch and notified me that we were starting a company. So I still maintain to this day that the reason I started out in this business was because I didn't say no clearly enough to someone who has big dreams. But once we kind of got into it, because I did very much get into this industry as sort of I'll call it like the doubting Thomas, right? Because coming from academic research, supplementation, natural health products, it's kind of like, I don't know, I didn't really come into it believing in it. So when we started the company, it seemed like it was a good idea from just like a business perspective. I was ready for something new. But once I started to learn a lot more about the different products, about some of the literature that's actually out there with regards to supplementation and the beneficial effects it can have for like preventative health and things like that, I really started to get a lot more passionate about the industry itself.
Absolutely. I think we come across this sector in similar fashions. Maybe not my dad convinced me to jump into a business, but the idea that there is a lot of foundation for a lot of the supplements
Mm-hmm.
out there. And there's this kind of, I don't know how to say it, like this tabooism with, especially in my profession, about talking even about supplements. And I know even when we were talking about putting a brand together, I won't lie, like I started to get a little bit anxious
Mm-hmm.
because of the taboo nature. But I just think there's so many benefits for so many products, and we just don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I would agree. There is a real taboo against it. I like that word. That's a good way to put it. And then a general sort of uneasiness or belief that like these products are not high quality, that none of them work, that type of thing, especially within certain communities. So I very much became passionate. And one of the things that I still love to do and would continue to love to do is sort of bridge that gap between like Western medicine and like Western medical ideals and more of that like preventative health, and sort of where the place that like supplementation can fall in that.
100%, 100%. So maybe we could talk about some of the specific supplements and some of the evidence from it. So once again, folks, as you heard in the intro, I was keen on partnering with Staterra because we knew with Gyata we'd be providing Health Canada high quality
Mm-hmm.
supplements that I would take myself, I allow my kids to take. So let's talk about some of them specifically. So you guys we went to the world of protein powder.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit in terms of the benefits, the indications, the science behind taking some protein powder.
For sure, for sure. So protein, is something that I'm passionate about. And is something that is very, again, highly debated. So I would make the argument, and I will die on this hill, that the majority of people in our population are not consuming enough high quality protein in their diets. I know that you feel the same way. You've posted about it, things like that, but it's something that I can't sort of reiterate enough because a lot of people are under the belief that, if I eat, chicken for dinner, like I'm good to go. The other thing that I think with protein that a lot of people just sort of miss or don't even think about is that particularly as we age, our body's ability to actually absorb protein decreases a little bit, right? Like as with everything, when you age, everything is kind of wearing out. It's not working quite as well as it did. And so especially for an aging population, protein supplementation is huge. There have been a number of studies that have shown supplementation with like a whey isolate is hugely beneficial for maintaining physical fitness, things like that. And if you can stay active longer, that obviously has so many other trickle down health benefits. So in there, I did mention a whey isolate. So I'll take do you want me to take a little aside
Yeah.
into the different?
That's exactly what I was writing down. I was like, I'll get it. I'll get you to talk about whey isolate and different types of powder.
Yes. So, sorry, all protein powders are not created equal. And I'll say this kind of as a blanket statement within sort of the natural health product or supplement industry is that you absolutely get what you pay for. If someone is telling you that they found like a protein powder and it is a massive tub and it was $20 and it's the best thing out there, it's just not true. High quality products do command a higher price point. And unfortunately, a lot of the products that are lower price point have massive, massive marketing budgets behind them. So it's just something to remember that in natural health products, supplements, you absolutely get what you pay for. So with regards to protein, the proteins that you're working with, it's a New Zealand whey protein isolate. So that is a mouthful. There are two different pieces to that. There's the fact that it is a whey protein isolate, which is different from, you may see, a whey protein concentrate. So the difference in that is the actual protein level and how refined it is. So a whey isolate is considered the top caliber. So it specs out at 90% protein content. The thing that's really great about this is the additional processing that it goes through removes added fat and it removes added sugars. So if you're lactose intolerant like me, you can often tolerate a whey isolate a lot better than say like a whey concentrate, which tends to have a little bit more of those extra fats and sugars in it. So as far as bang for your buck, so getting the most high quality protein in your scoop, whey isolate is the way to go. So
I just got to pipe in there. Sorry to interrupt, Alysen, because like 3/4 of our family is lactose intolerant.
Okay.
And the boys, when they're taking this, they're asymptomatic. And I was wondering, like, I didn't realize that in terms of why they weren't getting symptoms. And so this is really intriguing to hear.
So I've actually talked to a number of people that have told me like, well, I can't take whey protein. It upsets my stomach. I feel bloated. I don't feel well. And then they take a New Zealand whey isolate and they're totally fine. Because the other thing to also remember is like in your case as well, the product that we're talking about, it's naturally sweetened, naturally flavored. And so it's just more easily digested. A lot of protein powders out there are sweetened with like sugar alcohols. So like sucralose, obviously aspartame is not used as much in the industry anymore because for obvious reasons. But a lot of the artificial flavors as well as the artificial sweeteners can also cause digestive problems. So that's another piece, right? It's the protein itself, but then what are the other ingredients that are also in that product that make it palatable for consumption? And then this is where the New Zealand part comes in, because New Zealand whey isolate is actually the highest caliber of whey isolate that you can get. And one of the features of that is the fact that it is incredibly mild tasting. So it doesn't have a very bad taste to begin with, which makes it a lot easier to flavor.
Man, all these W's right here, folks. And as you heard, Alysen, you get what you pay for. So you're getting higher concentrated protein, less additives, less artificial sweeteners and additives in general, easier to digest. And is there a reason too? Like I still found this fascinating, and I wasn't sure if there was science behind it or if it's just a coincidence. But like when you shake the protein, it's not clumpy. Like you're not getting a bunch of clumps with than you do compared to some other ones. And I wasn't sure if that had anything to do with it being New Zealand whey isolate or not, but it's just smooth.
Yeah, so it does. So New Zealand actually is they're really, really big on their dairy and like their dairy regulations and then also their dairy processing. So the company that actually processes the milk in New Zealand, they're always sort of like pushing the envelope on like innovation and solubility and that type of thing. So the New Zealand whey isolate that you're working with is actually, it's called agglomeration. And it's agglomerated with sunflower lecithin. So a lot of the products out there, they're agglomerated with soy lecithin, or they're agglomerated with something, again, that's like a little bit less natural, that allows it to kind of go into solution. But again, if you're someone that's intolerant to soy, then you're gonna have a problem with a whey isolate that has soy in it, right? So it's all those little things that kind of add up. Do you want me to go into like the whole grass-fed aspect of everything? Because that's also a thing.
Yeah, I think People have no idea, Alysen.
Okay.
And so like I think this is all fair game.
Yeah. Okay. Just stop me, or if I'm talking too fast, let me know, because I
No,
can
no,
be a
you're
bit of a
good.
fast
You're
talker
good.
sometimes. Okay.
You
So
actually say that, but I don't actually find you a fast talker
okay,
at
good.
all.
Good.
We had this conversation before,
Yeah.
folks. But
Yeah.
yeah, you guys put it in the comments. You can let me know. Message me if you think Allison's talking too fast.
Perfect. So to go back to the New Zealand side of things, because you will start to see out on the market, like you will see other whey isolates, and you will see other whey isolates that are even from grass-fed cattle. So the major differentiator with the New Zealand is the fact that the cattle, yes, they're grass-fed. They're 97% grass-fed, but they also spend, I think it's over 90% of the time that they're not being milked in the pasture. And this is because New Zealand, they have a temperate climate. It works really well for growing grass. The farmers actually work with like grass growing specialists to help with the grass turnover, because their whole concept is that like healthy cattle will give you healthy milk, and healthy cattle start with healthy grass. So New Zealand, you can't actually grow any GMOs for cattle feed in New Zealand. It's against the law. So really another major differentiator is the treatment of the animals and the cattle themselves. So if anybody is interested in it, you can actually dig pretty deep and learn that they have it's not just animal care. They actually have like strategies on animal well-being to make sure that the cattle can engage in like their natural behaviors, that they're outside like in the sun, and they have regulations with the amount of time that they have to spend out grazing. And again, like any animal, they're out, they're moving around, they're getting fresh air, they have healthy food. And so then this in turn leads to a higher quality milk product. And then all of the regs in New Zealand with regards to how the milk product is handled and processed are extremely strict. And so all of that flows downstream into the highest quality whey protein isolate that you can get. And I should mention that especially when you're dealing with something that's an isolate, it is incredibly important to start with a really pure raw material, because you're taking a huge volume of milk and you're isolating the protein down into a small amount of powder. And so if there's any toxins, if there's pesticides, if there's a high amount of antibiotic use, right? So high antibiotic levels in the milk, all of that could be getting isolated down as well.
And just to reinforce, Alysen, like our product, Health Canada approved, so we're getting the green light from them. And also, can you explain third-party testing?
Yes. Yeah. So then what happens is after you have this whey protein isolate, and then it is essentially blended with different ingredients to get the flavor and then bottled. And those are done in large batches. And then because this is a Health Canada approved product, that means that each batch of product needs to be third party tested at the final product stage. So that means a sample of every single batch that goes out is sent to a lab. And in that lab, they're going to do an assay for the protein content. So they're going to make sure that it has as much protein in the bottle as the label says it does. Microbiology is run on it. So that's to make sure that you're within limits for, it's a whole panel of things, yeast and mold, total plate count. And then all those other like big scary ones that you hear about on the news, like salmonella and E. coli. So it's tested for all of those as well at the final product stage. And then the third thing is also heavy metal testing. So to make sure that the final product stage, that there's no issues with heavy metals in the product either.
Brilliant. And maybe we could touch a little bit upon, I kind of took away your momentum there, but we were talking about how our population is underdosing their protein.
Mhm.
And I mean, I could talk your ear off on the benefits of protein intake. I'll just quickly mention them now in case you had never listened to me speak. Increase your lean muscle mass, improve glucose control, you're fuller, which ultimately makes you make better eating decisions. Once again, increasing your lean muscle mass allows you to burn more calories just by having more muscle on board. All wins. And I think this is one of the hacks in life that if you increase your protein intake, you will be healthier. Full stop, no matter where you are in your health journey. But is there any data to support this or indications for taking protein? I mean, protein in general, but maybe protein powder that you're aware of?
Protein powder in particular, sort of you're saying versus like dietary protein?
Or just like, is there any data to support supplementing your protein? I guess is a better way of framing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of data again, it's within an aging population, huge benefits. There's a lot of data, obviously, within the athletic population that it can increase like lean muscle mass, that type of thing. I think one of the things that's really interesting about adding a protein supplement, and again, maybe this is sort of my old school thinking, I always very much try and tell everyone that a supplement is exactly what we say it is. It is a supplement to a diet. So do you want to go out and replace your protein content with whey protein isolate? Absolutely not. But is this an amazing stopgap if you're the type of person that really doesn't like having protein at breakfast? Yeah, because it's a really easy way to add it in. If you're someone that's always on the go and you know that like your lunch is going to be a bagel and a coffee, or you can throw some protein, mix it with water. Like I always try and tell people that it's a really great tool to be healthier in addition to a healthy diet, but I would never recommend that someone, replace all of their dietary protein with whey isolate, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how we approach it in our house even.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm aiming for 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound. So for me, anywhere from 145 to 200 plus grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
And there's some days where you're hustling and I don't think I'm going to get there. Or I'm extra hungry because it was a leg day plus went to play hockey. And so this is where, I honestly, I'll probably take it 3 or 4 days a week, not every day. And I just think it's such a great way of ensuring you're getting to your goals, especially when you're on the go.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of things is it tastes delicious,
Yeah.
doesn't it? My God.
Yeah. So, and I keep going back to like an aging population because the benefits there are so huge. But just because you mentioned the taste, my mother-in-law actually started taking your Gyata protein. And she has this whole ritual now where she puts it in her coffee and she makes like a vanilla latte with it. And it's a whole thing. She gave me the rundown. But it's great because now every day, for sure that she's taking in high quality protein, right? Because especially as we get older, it gets more difficult, right? And the other thing that happens as you age is your metabolism naturally begins to slow down. So naturally you feel less hungry, even though your nutrient requirements stay the same, right?
100%. And just to reinforce this, folks, like when I see people in ICU that don't do well, like frailty is a huge component. And so it's, as Alysen mentioned, your metabolism goes down, your appetite in general is lower. So it's harder to meet those protein goals. But, my mother-in-law is in town for another week and a half. She's definitely being sent home with some guy. We definitely want to make sure grandma stays strong and fit. You know what I'm saying? But ironically, so I'm sipping on coffee now. I don't typically do the protein in the coffee, but I do the collagen. And so,
Yes.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about, from your perspective, the benefit of collagen intake.
And I always feel weird talking about this because like whey protein, it's like muscle mass, there's like immune benefits, all these like wonderful things. And then collagen, one of the biggest factors, and admittedly, this is why I take it, is you have really nice hair, really nice skin, really nice nails. So there's definitely a beauty component to it. The thing that's really cool about hydrolyzed collagen is it is technically just a protein that's been broken down into smaller pieces. That's what the hydrolyzed piece in the name means, right? But when you look at the actual, I won't go too deep because I don't want to confuse too many people. Proteins are made up of amino acids, right? And so when you look at the amino acid profile of like a whey isolate versus an amino acid profile of a hydrolyzed collagen protein, the hydrolyzed collagen is really rich in amino acids that often tend to be lacking in our normal diet. And it makes sense, right? Because hydrolyzed collagen is derived from like bones and skin, which are the parts of meat that we typically don't eat, right? So it is a really nice, product to sort of boost those amino acids. And because of that, that's why it does seem to have such noticeable effects on like hair, skin, and nails. There's also a lot of newer information coming out about potential benefits for digestive health. And again, it's because it's higher in some of those amino acids that tend to be lower from our diets.
Yeah. And obviously all benefits that we all want to have our nails, skin, and hair look better. But for me, my personal reason why I take that is none of the above. It's actually for the joint health.
Yes.
more and more data to support that improve reduce joint pain and so forth. So I don't know if you've came across any of that
Yes.
data.
Yeah, so there's a lot out there, and there's actually a Health Canada approved claim on the collagen that it will help with joint pain, I believe, caused by osteoarthritis. Hydrolyzed collagen is something that you do need to take for a little while before you're going to see, especially like the joint health benefits, because what it's doing is providing your body with like the building blocks to help repair your joints. So a collagen is something that I always would recommend for someone that's very active with like running or higher impact sports. Even if you're not having pain right now, it's just something that's really nice to add because your joints are, there's a lot of wear and tear on them, right? And the reason, again, that it's so good for joint health is because of those amino acids that come from, in our case, it's a marine collagen. So it's fish skin is actually the, I guess, raw material at the beginning of the path. And again, skin, it's a lot of that more like connective-y type tissue that we don't consume in our diet.
Amazing. Yeah. So I like that kind of recommendation too, Alysen, because I don't know if people were aware that it takes a while to build up that reserve. And then also thinking about, I mean, maybe hard for the 22-year-old to buy in, but if you're in your 30s and 40s and before the joints become an issue, might as well be on top of it. And then also seeing that those added benefits to aesthetics, I think might be a value add. But certainly, I'm all about trying to make you guys as functional as possible. And so that's keeping strong and keeping active. And so anything that's in your arsenal that you could add that has little to no downside, I think is worth mentioning. Actually, it's a good point. I should just quickly ask this question. I know the answer, but I want to throw that down for the public. Downside to taking either protein or collagen. Is there anything people should be looking out for?
So obviously, I always recommend balance. You can have too much of a good thing. So don't go over the daily amount because like anything you put into your body has to process it. And so if you're taking huge amounts of protein, like that can put a lot of stress on your kidneys to process it. But that's pretty much the only downside is if you get really excessive with it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, some people might have some digestive issues with the whey, but I must say, like, as for the reasons we talked about, I'm finding it really easy to digest. My boys are finding it easy to digest. Mama Bear, loving it, throwing it into her oatmeal as an example. Greek yogurt, that's another one that's a good hack too, folks. But yeah, it's really minimal downside, a lot of potential upside. So, I mean, obviously we're all in. A couple other ones I think we should mention. Fish oil.
Yes.
Obviously, Gyata, we're offering that to our audience for good reason. But what's your perspective on taking fish oil?
Pretty much like the evidence at this point is that there's no downside to taking a fish oil supplement every day. There have been shown benefits like for heart health, cholesterol balance, there's joint health. Like it's incredibly widespread that getting those additional fats are so beneficial that it is one of those things that I always just say everybody should be taking a fish oil, a magnesium, and some type of protein. It doesn't really matter who you are. Chances are you're going to see some benefit from it with very little downside. So again, fish oil is one very, very much that you get what you pay for. And it's also very important to look out with fish oil for the packaging because fish oil can tend to break down quickly. So you want to make sure whatever fish oil you're using that it's packed in like a dark bottle to kind of block some of that light from breaking it down. And then watching out for like your EPA and DHA content. So you can get a lot of fish oils out there that seem like a really good price, but then when you look at the back of the bottle, you realize that you would need to take 4 or 5 of those soft gels to get what's in the equivalent of one of the Gyata ones, right? So I think that's just a little reminder because there are a ton of fish oil products on the market and it can get incredibly confusing. So a few things to kind of watch out for.
Yeah. And like I said, I like we're collaborating and with what we're doing with the Gyata is like we keep it simple. You take that one pill, you're getting your adequate amount of fish oil, omega-3. I mean, I take it like there's some anti-inflammatory evidence for it. And like, I'll tell you this much. Everything that lands in our ICU almost is related to inflammation, cardiac disease, strokes, your infections, everything is related inflammation. And so this
Hmm.
to me was one of those like no brainers. And it's hard, it's expensive, and it's hard to get adequate amount of like high quality fish too. So
Yes.
we try and rock the fish at least once a week.
Hmm.
But like some wild trout is popular in our household. But yeah, to me, this is one of those things where you get good bang for your buck. You know what you're getting, and you're only going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So the second last one that I wanted to bring up was magnesium. You touched on this. Everyone should be taking mag.
Yes.
Why do you like magnesium?
Well, on average, about 90% of the population is deficient in magnesium. It's just one of those ones that like nobody gets enough of. Is you can get it from your diet. It just tends to be in a lot of foods that we don't like to eat. It's in those like leafy greens, right? So magnesium is an excellent one. Magnesium glycinate to me is one of the best forms that you can take. There are a number of different forms of magnesium. The glycinate form is the one that is shown to help with relaxation, so like stress mitigation, sleep. If you can't sleep and you're stressed out, that wreaks havoc on the rest of your body, right? And I think it's something that like there's massive, massive rates of insomnia in the population right now. Everybody is always stressed out. And so magnesium is a really, really nice add. It's simple. You probably need it anyway.
Mm.
So it's one that everybody should just take.
And how much do you recommend, or how much do you take personally?
So I would say you probably want to get up to like sort of 300 milligrams. I would start at 150. So for the Gyata product, 150 milligrams is one capsule. Take it before bed because it does sort of have that like relaxing effect and it'll help you fall asleep. And then you can work your way up to 300 milligrams. So the magnesium glycinate form is one of the most absorbable forms of magnesium that you can get, but it can cause like gastro upset. Generally, the glycinate is the one that's least likely to cause it. I have an incredibly sensitive stomach, and so I feel like I'm very just like cautious when anybody asks because I know that I have so many struggles. But yeah, I would start with one and then work your way up to two before bed, and you're good to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you'll see some other magnesium types like that are like citrate, which is used for constipation as an example.
Yes.
This is the one that you want to avoid. You
Yeah.
want the one that's better absorbed, and you'll have those relaxation and sleep impacts that I think is great.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Alysen.
I was just going to add magnesium is another one that in the market right now is very difficult to find because you do have like magnesium citrate and magnesium oxide in particular are incredibly cheap ingredients. And so there tends to be a lot on the market that maybe they'll have a little bit of magnesium glycinate, but then the rest of it is magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide. So just something again to kind of be aware of. It is a difficult one to find and you get what you pay for.
Not sure when this episode will come out, but we're gonna add our last product that I'm hoping we were gonna talk about.
Creatine?
Creatine. My God. So I mean, we'll put it out there. We are going to set up creatine at some point because that's my favorite. And that's like when I take the supplements I take every day: creatine, magnesium, the fish oil, vitamin D in the winter. And so I can't wait till we're ready to bust out some creatine. But I know we got some work to do, right, Alysen? We got some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But no, I always get the name. I'm going to mess up the name.
Mine.
Yeah, I always want to call it Gains. That's why I was getting all anxious about saying it. But Mind Gain, this is one I want to add to the website too. We haven't done this yet.
Yes.
But I wonder if you could speak a little bit about Mind Gain because this is one I had two talks to give yesterday.
Yeah.
Took my Mind Gain, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I got to be sharp. I got to be on point.
Yeah.
Should have taken it today too, apparently. But yeah, no, I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So Mind Gain is different from the other products that we've just spoken about because all the other products we've spoken about are single ingredient. They have one active ingredient in them, where Mind Gain is a blend of ingredients. And so essentially, Mind Gain is a blend of ingredients that your brain uses when you're under stress. So what we've really tried to do with that product is, I hate to say it this way, but to give your brain the fuel that it needs to function. All of us in the world that we live in now, it is so much more cognitively taxing than the world we evolved to live in, right? Like when you think how quickly the whole like tech evolution has happened, it's actually insane that our brains can keep up with it at all. But right now, so here's a prime example. You and I are doing this podcast virtually. We're not face to face having this conversation, but our brains are still trying to process micro expressions and movements to pick up, to really understand, you know, all of that nonverbal communication that's happening, but that's happening with a very slight lag. And so not only is your brain trying to integrate that information, is trying to integrate it with the slight lag that happens over video. And that's why so many people, after they've had Zoom meetings all day, are exhausted, right? It's just a massive cognitive load that I think a lot of people don't even really consider. And then if you look at the amount of time that we do just spend, like the amount of stimulation we receive, right? Every time you're on like Instagram, yeah, it's hugely stimulating, those little tiny videos. And you think of like that dopamine hit that you get every time your brain is working. And so if you're doing this continuously, it can be very cognitively taxing and tiring. And so we developed the Mind Gain formula really to address that. So the other thing that's really interesting about it, it's what's considered a nootropic, so a cognitive enhancing product, is that a lot of nootropics that are on the market, they tend to rely on very high potency herbal ingredients, to the point that some of those herbals they're incredibly effective, but they're almost like drug level effective, especially if you're ordering like products in the US, because they are regulated very differently than Canada. So you can actually order products out of the US that are essentially like levodopa, the drug. And so long term, if you're taking those, that can lead to a lot of like neurochemistry issues in your brain, right? If you're just taking dopamine all the time. So Mind Gain, what we've really done is we've provided all of the raw ingredients and nutrients that your brain needs to function effectively. If your brain chooses to use it or not kind of depends on the person and the situation and sort of how nutrient depleted you are to begin with. But that's in a nutshell how it works. It's the nutrients your brain needs when you're stressed.
And what's some of the nutrients that you tap into?
So the major ones are tyrosine, so L-tyrosine. And tyrosine is actually, it can cross the blood-brain barrier and is a precursor to the neurotransmitter dopamine. The thing that's nice is if you take in tyrosine, you're actually not jumping any checkpoints. And so if you were to, I hate when my computer does that. Can you see my little thumbs
Yeah,
up?
it's good. It's telling you that we're on the right track. A little thumbs up. Love it.
And so when you take tyrosine, you're not actually jumping any checkpoints in your brain. It's different than if you were to take straight dopamine. If you take dopamine, it's dopamine. Where tyrosine, there are other ways that your body can use it. So let's say you weren't necessarily requiring more dopamine neurotransmitters at the time, you're not necessarily going to make it. We do the same thing within the acetylcholine pathway. So we provide like a choline source and then acetyl L-carnitine. And so this really helps a lot with focus. And so again, those are other two ingredients that your body could use in that way to sort of promote that concentration or that focus, but doesn't necessarily have to. It's different than a lot of the other herbals that actually prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine. So it's just a little bit of a different, theory on how to go about it.
And not to put you on the spot, but I saw a TEDx talk kind of talking about some of these neurotropics. And so is there any data to support any of this, or is it mostly like anecdotal at this point?
So right now we've actually run a double-blind placebo-controlled randomized trial. We ran it during COVID. It was done entirely online. It was a time, but essentially people were taking Mind Gain and then performing cognitive tests repeatedly using an online platform. So we have a huge amount of data from that. The preliminary analysis that we've done is positive, but I'm not going to say any more because we haven't gone through and done like the final analysis yet. And until you look at like your full data set, I feel like you never know for sure. The area that it looks like we're having a positive benefit, this is the scientist in me coming out, right? This is why
That's why you're here. This is why you're here.
This is why all the marketing people are like, you're terrible. So the area that it looks like we could be having positive benefit is in something called like task switch costs. And so what that is every time you focus on something and refocus on something, there's actually time that's lost for your brain to kind of shift gears. And it appears, or it looks like, Mind Gain is able to actually sort of make that time smaller. So you're able to focus and refocus more quickly.
Amazing. Yeah. So more to come.
Yes.
And By the way, if you need some help, like getting that bad boy published, I know some people that can
Okay.
help out with that.
Perfect.
We have a whole team. So but yeah, this has honestly been so informative, Alysen. Like this is what exactly I was hoping to get
Okay.
from our conversation, folks. Like really getting a reason on, as we mentioned before, supplements are supplements. Ideally, you're going to get stuff from Whole Foods, but you're not always going to have that opportunity. The benefits of protein, benefits of collagen, benefits mind gain, the benefits of magnesium and fish oil clearly illustrated, talking about high quality, why the products that we're busting out, why Gyata is representing some high quality, Health Canada approved stuff. And just for the record, folks, the reason I'm so glad to be partnering with Staterra is like, we're not compromising. Like this is, if I'm putting my name behind something, it's like, so that you get only the best. That's the only, I've been approached before for stuff like this. And I've always said, I've been, no, I don't know you, but we're talking about local O-Town representation. And so far, Alysen, I gotta say this ride has been amazing. So I guess all this to say, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate this. And thank you for partnering with us. And I think this journey is gonna be luscious.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.